If I am joining the content of this table to this table itself, then I can say that table join as a self join here. When we found the matching values between the table 1 and table 2, then only that value will going to be returned as a resultant here. Then what about left join here? Whatever could be the content is there in a table A or in the left table, everything will going to be displayed. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. Welcome back to the last session of your Unit 3, and we are in the BCA's 4th semester subject called Database Management System. As we all know that in short it is Dbms. I am Rohini TS, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So as we all know that we are in the second chapter of Unit 3, that is all about Sql-The Relational Database Standards. So before getting into our today's session, we'll just have a quick recap of my previous session. So in the previous session of this chapter, we had a discussion regarding views. So it is nothing but virtual tables. So we are going to create, or we are going to have one more virtual table by having a fields or columns of another table. So that tables can be either single table or a multiple table. By combining the columns or a fields or what attributes of another table, we are making one more table which is not physically exist, which is virtual in nature. So we can also create a virtual table by making use of a keyword called create view, and we can have a name for a virtual table or a view. And there also you can select a column from a different or from one or more tables. That is what we have discussed in the previous class, as well as I have discussed regarding what are the advantages we have in a virtual tables, and also we got to know that where it can be used and what are the advantages it will going to give in the SQL. So in our today's session, we'll see about the joins in Dbms, how we are going to perform the join operation, and also we'll see what are the types of SQL join we have in the Dbms, and also we'll see what are the additional features we have in the SQL. So till now we have learned so many concepts with respect to the SQL. So at last we'll see what are the additional feature it will going to give apart from the standard feature. And at last we'll see what is DCL, that is data control language. So in that, how we are going to control the transaction of a data, how data will going to be controlled with the help of this commit, rollback, and also we have a save point. At last we have a grant privileges as a last topic of your chapter 2 of Unit 3. That is what we are going to discuss in our today's session. Let me get into the session with respect to join in Dbms. As we all know that we have more than one number of table in a Dbms, right? So what if I wanted to combine the tables? What if I wanted to have operations by combining number of rows from 2 or more tables? So we have a concept called join that will going to allow us in order to combine the rows from 2 or more tables, which is going to be based on the related column between them. So if I am combining the rows of 2 or more table, then it will going to be combined based on the column. So based on the attributes, we are combining the record, or we are combining the tuples or rows from one or more table. And also join in Dbms is a binary operation. Mainly it will going to allows you to combine join product and selection in one single statement. Already you know about the projection operation as well as the selection operation, right? So in this, by making use of those projection as well as a selection operation together in a single statement, we can have this join. And also join clause is used to combine the records from 2 or more tables in a database, and mainly we are combining the fields from 2 tables by using a values which is common to each. So we are combining the rows as well as we are combining the columns or attributes here. Then what are the types of join we have? So here you need to understand one thing. Here we have 2 tables, right? So table 1 and table 2. We are combining the rows of that table based on its column, based on its attribute or a field, that you need to remember. Then what are the types of join we have? If I wanted to perform a join, then it will be a combination or a collaboration of two or more tables. So that you need to understand. Then here first type is all about inner join. So what it mean then? It will going to return the rows when there is a match in both the side. It is like an intersect. So when we have a common values in both the table, then we are going to have this inner join. Then what about left join? So it will going to return all the rows from the left table. As the name indicates, this is left join. So we have table 1 and table 2. Consider this as a left table, consider this as a right table. So when I am performing this left join, at the time whatever the content is there in the left side of a table, everything will going to be written. Along with that, even if there is no matches in the right table, even if you don't have any right matches in the right table, though it will going to display all the content whatever we have in the left table. Then contradict to this, we have a right join. So here it will going to return all the rows from the right table. It will return all the values whatever we have in the right table, even though we didn't find a match in the left table. That is right join. Then what about full join? We got to know inner join, only common values, left join, all the left value, even though there is no match in the right, and we have a right join, all the right tables row, everything will going to be displayed, even though we don't have a match in the left table. But what about this full join? It's like a union, right? It will going to return the rows when there is a match in one of the table. It won't bother whether it is a right table or a left table. If we found a match in any one of the table, then it will going to be joined together, right? That is what full join. Then what about this self join? So if I am joining the content of this table to this table itself, then I can say that table join as a self join here, so that it is used to join a table to itself. So we are joining the table, we are joining the rows of a table to that table itself. So as if the table were two tables. So if I have one more table like this, then it will just a duplication or a replica of a same table. In order to have that kind of operation, we are going to have this self join, right? So temporarily we can rename at least one table in the SQL statement. So if it is of two table, when I am performing the join operation, it will be a replica of the same table itself. Then we can rename any one of the table as table 1 and table 2, that is of your wish. And also we have a Cartesian product here, or a Cartesian join. So this will going to return the Cartesian product of the sets of records from the two or more join table. So Cartesian in the sense, it will be like multiplication. So all the rows of one table will going to be multiplied with all the rows of another table. Then whatever the value that we are getting after the multiplication or a product of all the rows of one table to with another table, that will be the resultant. This is how we are going to perform the join, and these are the types of join we have. So next, you can see one example here. Here I have two tables. So you need to remember, this is left table and this is what? Right table. Okay. So that is left table is employee table, and right side we have one more table called project. If I say table 1, that is related to employee, and if I say table 2, that is related to project here. Okay. So here in the employee table, we have an employee ID, employee name, city, salary, and we have age, and we have 6 rows in the employee table. So this is first table. In the table 2, what we have a project. Table name is project. Even it has some columns or attributes. So it consists of project number, employee ID, department. So this is what? Employee ID, which we are using in this project. This is both the employee and project tables are interrelated to each other. Then by making use of this employee table and project table, we are going to perform the different types of join. So in that, first we have a inner join. So already you know about inner join, right? So here you need to understand, when we performing this inner join, it will just going to return the matching values from both the tables, from left table as well as from the right table, or a table 1, table 2. So that it will going to select the record that have matching values in both the tables. So when we found the matching values between the table 1 and table 2, then only that value will going to be returned as a resultant here. So that as long as the condition is satisfied, based on where predicate or based on that condition, we are going to perform this operation. So however or whenever it will be true, until that it will going to returns the common values. What if there is no common values? At that time it will just going to return null. Okay, so you can see this diagrammatic representation of inner join. So here what will be the syntax then? You can see that select table1 dot column 1. So we have two tables, right? One is left table and another one is right table, or table 1, table 2. So from the table 1, which is the first table, that was employee. Second is department. In the employee, whatever the columns we have, that you need to remember. In the department, whatever the columns we have, that you need to remember here. So that table 1 dot column 1, I am taking the first column from the table 1, comma table 1 dot column 2. I am taking a second column from the table 1 itself. So that means I can have any number of columns here. It's not only 2 columns. You can take any number of columns. So that column can be n. So if you wanted to take 3, so the n value will be 3. If you wanted to take 5, then the n value will be 5 itself. So that select table 1 dot column 1, comma table 1 dot column 2. I am picking the column from table 1. From table 1 inner join. So I am picking all these columns from the table 1, from after that inner join. Which operation we are performing? Inner join. And also I am combining the values of table 2. Right table, left table, whatever we have, we are combining those two with the help of this inner join. On what table we are performing this inner join? On table 1 dot matching column is equal to table 2 dot matching column. So whatever the matching column we have in both the table, that will going to be written when we are performing this inner join operation. Fine. So this is syntax. Then if I wanted to fetch the name and department of a employee related to both employee table and department table, that is what I am trying to pick here. So you can see the query, select employee.emp. So here employee is the name of a table and its column is employee name. So what was the column first we had in the employee table? That was emp underscore name. So that you can see here. Remember, we have an employee ID, employee name, city, salary, age. That is these are the columns we have in the employee table. So in the project, we have a project number, employee ID, department. Now I am trying to find, or I am trying to pick this employee name as well as their department who has a match in the both the tables. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So here what we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So these employee name along with their department will going to be displayed as a resultant for this inner join. So that I will show you in the coming slides. You can see here, right? So and also project dot department. From the project table, I am picking the department column. And also from employee, I am taking the left table, that is employee, and we are performing this inner join operation with the project table, right? So we are performing inner join for employee and for project. I am taking the employee name from employee table and department from project table. On project.emp id is equal to employee.emp id. So in the project table, we have a department number and employee ID and department. Under that, I am comparing. So whatever the employee ID we have in the project table, so I am trying to match the employee ID which we already have in the employee table. Right? So what are the tables content we have in the employee ID of project as well as the employee? Both will going to be combined together. That will going to be given as a resultant. So here you can see that. So what was the query we had? Employee ID which is there in project should be matched with the employee ID which we have in the employee table. So here 1, 2, 3, 4. So these 4 we can found a matching. So if both got matched, then we have to return, right? We have to return employee name and department. So I have to take the employee name of these 4 rows as well as I need to take the rows of this department. Then the resultant will be like this. So these are the values which is matched between both employee table as well as in the department table. This is regarding inner join. Then what about left join here? Whatever could be the content is there in a table A or in the left table, everything will going to be displayed. If we have a match in the table 2 or from right table, so that will going to be combined with the left table or from the left join. If we don't have a match in the right table, then that will be considered as written as null value. So you can see here SQL left join returns all the value from left table, right? Whatever could be the values, however could be the query. So based on that, it will going to return all the values from the left table and the matching values from the right table. So it will return all the left values or left tables content, but whatever the matching content we have in a table 2 or in the right table, that will only going to be written. So what if there is no matching? Then it will going to return null. Fine. You can see the syntax here, again same thing, but here you need to mention that as a left join, right? So based on some constraint, we are matching. So whatever the matching column we have in a table 1, that I am matching here. If it got satisfied, then it will going to display the column whichever we have selected from table 1 as well as from the table 2. So you can see the query. Select employee dot employee name. Again I am trying to pick the employee name and department. So we are performing the left join here. Left join of what? Employee as well as project table. On what basis we are doing? So whichever the employee ID that we have in the project table should be matched with the employee ID of the employee table. So those who got matched in left join, all the name and department will of the left table will going to be presented, and whatever we have in the right side or a table 2. So we are trying to match. If there is a match, then it will return the value. If there is no match, then it will return that value as a null. So again already we know this table, employee and project. I am trying to fetch all the values of a left join, right? We are performing left join. So all these 6 rows will going to be written. But here in the right table or in the project table, we are just going to try to find the match. So we have only 4 matches, right? So we have only 4 matches from left to right. Here it will going to return this Russell and Mary, but it will return that as a null because we don't have that 5 and 6 in the project table. So here you can see that, right? So all the 4 tables we had a match in the left table, but when I am performing the left join, I wanted to give all the values of a left table. So every value will going to be displayed in the employee name, but when it matched with the department, we found only 4 match, but these 2 match is not there in the right table. That's why it is returning the value as null. Fine. This is for left join. Same thing we are going to apply for the right join. So when we are performing this right join, whatever could be the content in the table B, that is in the table right, everything will going to be displayed. But when we found a match in the table A, only that content will be written. If there is no match in the table A or a left table, it will going to return that as a null. Fine. Here also same thing. Here you need to change the syntax as right join. Same query again with a right join operation. So here again we know that we have only 4 values in the right table, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that names are Angelina, Robert, Christian and then Kristen. So these are the content what we have in the project, but we don't have a match of this Russell and Mary. Then how will be the resultant? We need to bother only about the right table. So no need to worry about the left table content, so that this two will be ignored. Only the content of right table will be displayed as a resultant of employee name as well as department. You understood, I think. Next we'll move to the full join. So whether it is matched or not, whatever the content we have in a combination of both left and right table, everything will going to be presented here, and that is what full join. You can see that in the full join, the result of a combination of both the left and right outer join. It will combining both table A, table B, right table or a left table, so that it will going to have all the records from both the table and it will provide null on the place of matches not found. So it will return all the values from table A and table B. When there is no match between the table A and table B, that will be returned as null. So here also same thing, and here you need to change the syntax as full join. Here you can see that we are performing the full join on the table employee and project, and we are fetching the employee name from employee table and department from the project table. On what basis? What is the employee ID which is present in the project ID should also needs to be matched with the employee ID of employee table. So already we know about this table. So here you can see that we have all the values, the 4 matching values are first 4 rows, and we don't found a value or what matching value for the Russell and Mary. So it will going to be written as null. This is what outer join output is all about. I hope you all understood all the types of join that we have in the SQL. So next, we'll see about the additional features of SQL. So though till now we got to know what SQL is all about, what are its advantages, what are the operations that we can perform. Apart from all those operations, what are the additional features that we can expect from SQL in order to have a effective and efficient way of doing the programming. So here in the first additional feature, there we have SQL has several different techniques for writing a programs in various programming language. So this SQL will going to provide a different programming language in order to talk to a database. Then what those programming language comprises of? It will going to include embedded dynamic SQL. So we have a embedded SQL and also we have a SQL CLI. CLI in the sense call language interface, and also it will going to have a ODBC, that is open database connectivity, and also we have a SQL bar PSM program stored modules. So all these programming language which will going to be supported by this SQL, so that we can have more efficient and effective way of writing a query in order to talk to a database. And also we have a set of commands for specifying physical database design parameter, and also it includes file structure for the relation and access path that include indexes. So we are going to call all these commands as a storage definition language. So we also have a SDL language or a storage definition language in the SQL, which will be helpful in order to specify the physical database design. Along with that, it will be helpful for the file structure for the relation. All those operations can be performed as a additional features of SQL. Then what we can expect from this SQL again? Mainly it will going to have a control over the transaction. That means we have a transaction set of operations which is performing concurrently. Then we can say that as a transaction, but there also we have a control over the transaction. For that language we have that is considered as what? TCL or a transaction control language, and under that we have certain commands. So mainly this will going to specify the units of database processing for concurrency control and recovery purposes, mainly in order to provide a security and also in order to have a concurrency control. So when I am performing more than one transaction at a time, it needs to be isolated. So transaction should not get affected by other transaction, and the transaction which is happening should not affect the other transaction. That means when we are performing more than one operation or a transaction at a time, then isolation is important. Already we know about the ACID properties, right? So all those will going to be satisfied with the help of this SQL. And also it will going to have a language construct for specifying granting and revoking of privileges. It's like what? Blocking and unblocking, right? So we are providing some privileges for the user that I will be discussing in my coming slides. But as of now, it will going to grant and revoke. It will just gives and takes the permission back from certain object. So and also this privilege will be given to the user, so that mainly it will going to be the correspondence to what? Right to use of certain SQL commands. So when we are giving a right or when we are taking that right back from the user in order to have certain commands, that can also be considered as what? One of the security features. So if you have more security and confidentiality for a data, then the number of user will be high. So even that feature can be expected from this SQL. And also this SQL has a language construct for creating triggers. So we can also have a concept called triggers. So you will be getting to know what triggers is all about in the coming session. As of now, So this trigger concept is also supported by this SQL, and mainly we are going to call this as an active database technique. Then why we are going to use that? It will specify the actions that are automatically triggered by the event. That events are like database updates. So when you are getting update, for example, you can take the example of what book my show. So when you are booking the seats, the color will going to be updated immediately. So when you are once you book, then you are going to get a notification. So if you are performing some operation, then triggers will going to be activated. So even that options also we have in the SQL. Along with that, it will going to incorporate it with certain other feature. So that features is what known as object relational. So with the help of this object relational, we can have certain capabilities like leading to enhanced relational system, and also this will be considered as what? Powerful capability. So whatever the features we have, by making use of that, we can have an enhanced version of writing a query. It will going to provide more effectiveness and efficiency for writing a queries. And also that capabilities, whatever we have told in the powerful capabilities, it will going to include complex structured attributes. So we can have a complex structured attributes, that is also considered as what? Nested relationship. So you can have a, or you can write what nested relationship here, and also it can specify the abstract data types. Abstract data type in the sense we can have our own data types, so UDTs, and also user defined types for attributes as well as for the tables, and creation of object identifiers for referencing the tuples and specifying the operations on types. All these will be considered as what? Additional features which we can have in the SQL. And also this SQL and relational database will going to interact with the technology called XML, that is extended markup language. All these features and all these capabilities that we have with the help of this SQL. So by making use of all these what options or all these features, we can improve and we can enhance the operations of a database. So these are the additional feature. I hope you all understood. Let me go to the next topic, that is regarding TCL, that is transaction control language. Why controlling of transaction is important in the DBMS? So this transaction control language or a TCL mainly will going to work or deal with a transaction within the database. As I told earlier, whatever the operation that we are performing, so all those operations considered as what? Transaction. So it needs to be what? Mainly the transaction should be completely done or should not be done anything. So that is what. For example, if you are trying to send money from your account to your friends or anybody recipient's account, at that time it has to take only two things, right? So either money has to be credited to your friend or a recipient, and the money has to be deducted from your account. Only those two operations has to happen. It should not stuck in between. It should not take any 3 working days. That is what we are expecting in the transaction. So whatever the changes or a propagation of changes that we have in a database will be considered as what? Transaction. In order to have a control over that transaction, we have a TCL language. So, and we have certain commands in the TCL language. So that you can see here, we have a commit, rollback, SAVEPOINT, and also we have a set transaction. Then what about this commit? Why we are going to use this commit command in the TCL? It is like a control S, fine. So it will going to commit the transaction. What are the operation that we are performing will going to be saved. And what is this rollback? As the name indicates, rollback. I wanted to go for the previous operation or a transaction what has been happened. So that rollbacks takes a transaction in case of any error occurs. So if something goes wrong, at the time it will take you to the previous page. That is what? Rollback. It is like undo. Okay. So here we have a save point here. It set the save point within a transaction. So for example, if I have 10 transaction, after that I am going to mention after the third transaction I wanted to save that content. When it reaches to third transaction, at that point it will going to save the content. Next, set transaction we have, this specifies the characteristics for the transaction. So what should be the characteristics or features should be there in the transaction, that will going to be defined with a set transaction command. These are the types of TCL commands that we have. So here you can see that in the commit command, as I told, it is like a control S in the word. So why we are going to use this? if I wanted to save the content whatever we have typed in the word, so in the same way if I wanted to save or if I wanted to save the changes which is happening in the database, for that reason we are going to have this commit command. Then what will be the syntax for this? Commit. So when you are performing the SQL lab, so or a DBMS lab, at that time also you can have this commit command. So when you come to the next lab, at that time all the transaction or all the queries whatever you have done will going to be saved. So you can retrieve it back. That is what the commit command is used to save the changes. Then what about rollback? Rollback command is used to roll back the changes to the previous transaction. If I wanted to undo or if I wanted to go back to the previous transaction, then we have to use this rollback. Then what will be the syntax? Only rollback semicolon. Fine. Then what about the SAVEPOINT command? So the SAVEPOINT command is used when we want to go back to the previous transaction without going back to the entire transaction. For example, if I have a 5 transaction, so I wanted to go from this transaction to this transaction. In order to have this kind of feature, I have to go with the save point instead of going from the first transaction. That is what save point. So when we wanted to go back to the previous transaction without going back to the entire transaction, I am not at all coming out from this transaction at all. I am just going back to the previous transaction, previous step of a transaction in the overall transaction. So then what will be the syntax? Only save point. It will take you to the previous transaction. If you wanted to do a change or if you wanted to make any changes that you can do, again you can use commit command to save all the things. Then if you wanted to go back or if you wanted to do the undo, then you can have a rollback, right? This is regarding save point. I hope you all understood regarding this save point, commit as well as rollback. So next we have a data control language, that is what? DCL. So when we have a multiple user environment, at that time the confidentiality and maintaining a security over the data is very, very important. So we must have a control over the data. If there is no control over the data, it can be misused, right? So in order to remove all those ambiguity or inconsistency in the database, we are going to have this DCL command or a data control language command. So in that we have a grant and revoke as a two important commands. So why we are going to have this? Mainly this will going to deals with the rights, permissions and other controls of the database system. Who can access, what can be accessed, when can be accessed, up to what time can be accessed, all those features will going to be given, or all the confidentiality and security will be given in the terms of rights, permission and over having a control over all the database system. For that reason we have this data control language or a DCL. And also mainly it will going to enforce the database security in a multiple user database environment. So nowadays we are all using social media without bothering about the security. So why? Because when we are having a multiple user environment, at the time our thought is like, what will be the, who will be the developer or organization owner? They are taking care of the security of our data. Then how can we trust that? With the help of this DCL or a data control language. So in this we have a two commands, one is grant and another one is revoke. So by trusting, we are granting some privileges or a permission or a rights to the user. So when they are not genuine, if I wanted to take it back, then we are going to use this revoke. You can see here, gives a user's access privileges to the database. This is will going to like when you wanted to run a SQL commands, at that time it will going to ask for the username and password. That means we are granting, yes, you can use the database. So if I wanted to take that permission back, then I have to use this revoke. So in the revoke, it will going to withdraw the user's access privileges, which is given by making use of a grant command. So with a grant command, I am just providing access to the database. If whatever the rights or a permission which is given by the grant command will be taken back with the help of this revoke command. You can see each of the command here. In the grant command, mainly it is used to provide the access or privileges on the database objects. So that objects can be, already we know that we have a table, we have a views or a virtual tables, and also we have what a combination of tables. So whatever could be the object is all about, even database or a table or a views, whatever it could be. So in order to access that, we are going to provide the accessibility and privileges to the user in order to access the database object. Then what will be the syntax for this? You can see we are going to use a keyword called grant and privilege name. What operation they can perform, whether they can only execute or they can open, close the database, and they can read, write. That privilege name I am giving on what object. So what they can do, whether they can insert, delete, update on the table. So that is what object name. Object can be views, table, or even database itself. To whom we are giving? To the user. So here we are using or. It doesn't mean that you need to use all the things. Okay. So we are giving that privileges to username. For example, I have created a user called TSR. So I am giving that privilege to TSR ma'am only to access that object with a specified privilege. Or we can give it as public. Everybody can access it. Or role name, whether with the help of DBA, that is database administrator. We have certain roles, right? Designer, and also we have end users. So who can access? So we are giving that permission on the object to user or a public, and also for the role name, right? And with grant option. So we are granting certain options on that. In the same way, revoke. So in this revoke command, this will going to remove the user access right or privileges to the database object, whichever has been granted with the help of grant command, that will going to be taken back with the help of this revoke. So somehow all the syntax will be same here in the grant and revoke. So here revoke, privilege name on object name from. So from whom we are taking, whether we are taking from the user or from a public or a role name, that needs to be specified, and it will going to be close. So this is regarding revoke command. It's all about your unit 3. I hope you all understood. Let me meet you in the next session with the starting of this unit 4. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.